and welcome to Conversations with the Coach. I'm Randy Levin from Randy Levin Coaching. I'm the CEO and founder, and I am a transitional life strategist. I'm an author, a speaker, and a reinvention expert, which is a really, really, really fancy way of saying that we are just not the same people at 30 or 40 or 60 or 80 that we were at 20, and we're not supposed to be. So I give my clients and my audiences support and permission to be able to pivot in their lives, and support and permission to create and carve out their own legacies. And I always ask the question, so what's next? And what's next for us right now is Russ Terry. And Russ Terry is not only a mentor, a friend, he's also the author of 2 books on gratitude, a gratitude expert, an incredible coach. And today we're going to be discussing wanting to be more grateful and what that really brings into your life. And I'm going to let Russ do his own intro and do justice to himself. So Russ Terry.
All right. Thank you so much for that super nice introduction, Randy. You are awesome and amazing, and I'm super honored to be here with you. It is awesome when we see things come full circle. As Randy said when she introduced me, she called me a mentor. So I really think it's just a fantastic moment in life when a mentor and a protege can work together on a project, just like Randy and I are doing for this lab discussion tonight. And I'm grateful to her for introducing this cool new tool to me, so I can come to you and we can also bring to you a couple of the authors in my latest book, Our Gratitude Mission. I'm all about gratitude. As she said, I published my first book, My Gratitude Journal, in 2014, and then my most recent book, Our Gratitude Mission, came out this past February. And I have been documenting a different expression of gratitude every single day since December 10th, 2012. So I am just a couple weeks short of 3.5 years worth of different expressions of gratitude. And over the course of this hour tonight, I'll talk to you about what I'm grateful for, how I'm grateful even on tough days, and a lot more. So thanks a lot, Randy, for having me here.
You're very welcome. And why gratitude? That's the biggest question that people ask. You know, you're a gratitude expert. You've written these 2 books. What's behind that? What's behind this being grateful, and why has this become your passion?
So a couple different things or experiences that caused me to be this grateful. Number one, growing up, my mom and I played a lot of tennis together, mixed doubles. We played in and won tournaments and leagues and stuff like that. And she would always say with conviction, P&A, positive mental attitude. And that has stuck with me all these years later, the way she said it and what she said and how she said it. And then back in 2012, or fast forward to 2012, I read a book called The Fearless Factor by Jacqueline Wales, aimed primarily at women in their 40s and 50s who maybe were not fearless up until that point in their life. And Jacqueline's mission was to change that, to make women more fearless. So I read this book in the fall of 2012, and she recommended people to being more grateful, and for the women who read her book, The Fearless Factor, to start a gratitude journal. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to start a gratitude journal too. That sounds like a great idea. And you know what? I think I want to take it a step further and make a book out of it. So my first book, My Gratitude Journal, was literally just that, my gratitude journal for 365 straight days, starting December 10th, 2012 and going through December 9th, 2013. And it's a different expression of gratitude every day. And I say this all the time, but it's worth saying to you here. When we train the brain to be more grateful by thinking of different expressions of gratitude, the examples keep flowing like a bountiful river. And if you think about it, Randy, we have an infinite number of life experiences every single day. So if we stop or pause to be grateful for those experiences, it can really have an amazing positive impact on our life.
You know, Russ, it's so spot on, because I'm always talking about celebrating the successes, looking at the growth more than the goals. I know as coaches, we're like, goals. And yes, goals are important. We need to have a destination. But the successes, those little pieces of growth that happen along the way, not to be underestimated in any way. And sometimes they are something so small that if we're not mindful of it, we don't really acknowledge it. And what you're saying with something like the gratitude journal especially is every single day, stop and think about what went right, what you're proud of, what you're happy with. And it's a whole different way of thinking.
It is. And I'm on the lookout for what my expression is going to be on a particular day. Last night, it was around 11:45 p.m. I was on my way home from the city, taking the train, and I was walking down my street, and these few buildings in a row had these incredible new lights outside them. So that was my thing that I was grateful for. That, wow, now our street is safer because these buildings invested in these great new lights outside. Today, I had to reset my LinkedIn password. So I thought to myself, oh my gosh, what is my LinkedIn password? I don't even remember it, And I remembered it. And then I had to log on to something else and hadn't been on it in a while. I have a new computer, as you know, Randy. So I'm having to log in on the new computer.
And partially responsible for that.
You are responsible, yes. We'll have a separate conversation on that. But so I was like, you know what? I'm grateful for all the passwords that I remember, the usernames and passwords. There's so many permutations.
So subtle that maybe saved you some time, right?
Right.
That this time because I actually remembered something that I haven't used in a while.
Exactly. I didn't have to reset it. I didn't have to get the email or any of that stuff. So it's just, I shouldn't say it's being on the lookout for all the different amazing life experiences that happen to us every single day and pausing to express that gratitude, whether it's in a written journal, on a Facebook page, or just mentally to ourselves.
And I honestly believe, and really coach and speak around it and write around it all the time, that gratitude, abundance, appreciation, you can use the word thanks, I have another theory on thanks, takes us forward, gives us forward motion. What are your thoughts on that, Ross? A little bit of forward motion we get from the momentum of being grateful.
Absolutely. It's the law of attraction. When you see more positive things in your life, more positive things happen to you. It's funny, my chief of staff, Danica, calls me Midas, as in the Midas touch, because good things are always constantly happening to me. I left my phone in a cab last week, and she was like, of course you're going to get it back. There's no doubt in my mind that you're going to get it back. And sure enough, within about a day and a half or so, I got the phone back. So yes, I was without a phone for a day and a half, but it was actually quite liberating. And I got a lot done not being distracted by my phone. So I was grateful for that. And then I was grateful to get it back. And I was grateful to all the people that helped me get it back. The cab company, the cab driver, my friend whose cell phone I used to call the cab driver to meet up with him, all of that stuff. So absolutely, when you're more grateful, you're more positive, and more positive things happen in your life. I guarantee it.
I think for some people, it's actually a shift. So they kind of put it out there, kind of like with your phone was. I know somebody who did this with a passport once, and she was overseas, and she literally lost her passport. Somewhere at the airport, she'd gotten into the country. She was in the Orient, and she said to the concierge, well, can you send somebody back to the airport? Can you see if they can locate my passport? And they got crazy. Like, what do you mean? Blah, blah, blah. No, I'm going out to dinner. Have a little faith. They'll find it. And sure enough, she came back, and she came back to her passport. It had been found. And that for her was a life-altering moment because she just felt like, okay, I need to be grateful and mindful of what's going on. What is the message? What's my life saying to me here? It was a switch, and it kind of made her decide to make a whole career shift for herself, that this was kind of her last trip doing what she was doing and was going to move into something that was her own business and a completely different thing she'd been thinking of, kind of based on having a little faith.
Absolutely. Faith is a big thing, and spirituality is huge. And we don't necessarily have to be religious to be spiritual and grateful. We certainly can be, and we're not going to make this a discussion about religion, but I think there's a huge momentum shift going on in society now, thanks to Oprah and others, for people to be super spiritual, super conscious, and living a better life.
Exactly, all the way around. And one of the things that I was recently writing about, because I really started thinking about the difference between being grateful and being thankful. And yeah, thankful is a wonderful thing. And we all say thank you, or hopefully we say thank you. But we say thank you kind of like we say, I'm fine, when someone asks how we are. Automatic. Whereas when we have gratitude, it's deeper. It's more from the heart, from the gut. There's more momentum in it because we're really mindful of what that is when we're grateful. And so I think there's definitely a little difference between just being thankful for something and saying, this is great that this is such and such, and being grateful that, wow, this really has meaning to me because of whatever it is. Do you have any thoughts around that at all? I know we talked about.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. A good analogy is cooperate is to thankful as collaborate is to grateful. So it's the concept, but to a higher level.
I like that. That's great. I wanted to invite on, if Mark is here, I don't know if anybody else is still here. I think Mark is still here. If you want to hop on,
yes.
If you're still on. Hey, there you go.
So it says he's calling in. I'll let you take care of it.
Accept. And hopefully here he comes. Mark is in.
Oh,
Yay.
Nice to meet you. It's a little bit like the Brady Bunch here when we're situated, but it is what it is. And I wanted you guys to talk a little bit about your book and the journey with our gratitude mission.
Yeah, so I'll give Mark an intro and then I'll let him talk. So our gratitude mission includes 15 people from around the US and other parts of the world who did what I did, documented a different expression of gratitude every single day for a year. And then each of them writes a chapter in our gratitude mission, talking about how that year of gratitude positively transformed their life. So Mark is chapter 12, and his story is awesome. He had a crazy year. So Mark, welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's so great to have you here. Mark and I have had book signings together in New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C. So we've been on tour together. He's been the one author that I've been side by side by the most. So Mark, thank you so much for being here. And it's great to have you on Blab. We're both Blab rookies.
Yeah, no, this was my first experience, and thank you for having me. And I guess I must be something of a publicity hound because, as you said, Russ, I loved our multi-city tour. It was a lot of fun, and I actually learned a lot, and it was great to meet some of the other authors as well in New York and in DC. Again, it was just terrific meeting Russ a couple years ago through a friend in New York City and learning about Russ's journey, his first book, and then super excited to be invited to chronicle my 365 days, a year that I called With Change to Spare, meaning that there had been a lot of change, a job change, moving to a different city, plus actually buying a place in yet a third city, getting resettled, dealing with parental issues of aging and health, etc., losing friends, gaining friends, learning to be open to new things. So it was a wonderful experience.
So Mark, what would you say is the number one thing or number one way that being grateful for something different every day for a year positively impacted your life?
I think the mindfulness, the state of mind, regardless of what was actually happening in the moment, that there's going to be something to be grateful for. I think I may have expressed this in some way, but maybe not as fully, is that even when something's happening, it's that anticipation, that belief that something good is about to happen, and that you're going to be grateful for however insignificant it may seem in that moment. You can be having a conversation and all of a sudden be sort of caught up short and think, wow. And then you just need to keep that mindfulness, and then something else will happen and you're like, oh, now that is the wow. That was the wow I was waiting for.
First of all, yes, I love the mindfulness. And the other man in our book, Peter Franklin, he actually is a certified Be Mindfulness instructor and teacher in the Boston area. So he would love that you gave a shout out to mindfulness. Let me just pause and ask you, what is the cool thing behind you? I love it.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was going to be doing it. But this apartment, the signal, I was going to go into the other room and then the signal was much weaker in there. So I came back out here. This is a piece, it's just like a Crate and Barrel 2, CB2 piece that we picked up a few years ago that we had in the New York apartment. It looks like the Amalfi Coast or something. It's like all this blue with just a little bits of orange in it. And we had it in the entry table, which is the same entry table behind me that you can't really see the table, in the New York apartment. And then we brought it down here.
Wow.
If I can shift it. It's an entry table.
Do we want to bring Nadia on also because we have another seat? Looks like she's on.
Yeah, if Nadia is in, let's bring on.
Press to come on if you want to jump on.
Yeah,
and
thank you for that story, Mark. That was awesome. I love that you have a piece of New York there with you. And P.S. the Amalfi Coast was my first international trip, so. I look forward to seeing that in person. Oh my God, there's Nadia. I love it. The gang's all here. Hey.
Hi. We tried to get Diana on, but it just wasn't working.
Well, you deserve.
You're on now. Aren't you grateful?
I'm grateful to be able to come in the last minute and help out. Yes.
Well, and thank you, Nadia. I'm grateful to you for trying to help Diane get on. And Diane Leewer, our Chapter 5 author, was trying to get on, everyone, but she had technical difficulties. So hopefully there can be a future interview that we can involve her. But shout out to Nadia. Nadia is Chapter 13. So we have Chapters 12 and 13 in the book here with us tonight. And Nadia was actually the first author to start her gratitude mission. She actually started January 1st, 2014. Nadia and Mark both live in DC, so the DMV is very well represented tonight, and it was great to see them about a month and a half ago for a book signing party there in DC. Nadia, let me ask you, what would you say was the number one way that being grateful for something different every day positively impacted your life?
I would say that it certainly helped me to change my mindset, the way that I thought. I think when I started my gratitude mission, I was very much like in my victim mode of life, and by being able to really see the gratitude in every single day, and even kind of having to force myself to do it, I realized there was a lot to be grateful for. And it just really helped me see things from a more positive and optimistic perspective.
And what I love about Nadia's chapter is she had some challenges in her year. Not that Mark didn't. Mark had challenges too, as he alluded to, health of parents, etc. But Nadia had job-related and people-related challenges. And to see Nadia be so empowered by herself over the course of her chapter was really amazing. And seeing what she could be grateful for, even in these situations that others may think were bad situations. So Nadia, I have so much respect for you and really want to give a shout out to you for the year that you had and how you responded to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Randy, I've been asking lots of questions. So.
The question of all questions for the three of you, and that is the tools and tips for expressing gratitude. How can we express abundance and bring that practice into our everyday if we're not used to doing it? What do we do? Where do we start?
I say start.
All right.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nadia. No, you please. I talk all the time. You go ahead. I'm happy to supplement whatever you say.
I guess the thing of starting with the little things, just a lot of times we don't see the gratitude in just the smallest little occurrences that happen in every day for us. If that's waking up on time when normally we wouldn't have waking up on time. If that's, somebody maybe you being first in line when you go somewhere, when you're trying to get your morning cup of coffee, just it's the little smallest things, that happen. And I think that when you start just to recognize the little things that happen and you start writing those down, then you really start seeing how things are really happening all around you. And then you start seeing like the big things, and it goes from there.
Absolutely. And I said this earlier, but it's worth repeating to echo what you said. Each day is an infinite number of life experiences, and all of these little things added up make a huge difference to a huge amount of gratitude and a huge amount of positive things happening to us and around us every day. One of my favorite little things to be grateful for is a parking spot. Driving around the New York, New Jersey area and having the parallel park. Every single time I get a parking spot, I'm grateful. And I've already expressed it in my book, so I don't post it as my official thing on social media, but you better believe that it puts an extra smile on my face when it's alternate side of the street parking day and I have to move my car and there's a spot across the street and all I have to do is swing it around. And I'm extra grateful when there aren't any cars coming when I'm trying to swing the car around. Mark, what about to answer Randy's question? What advice do you have for people who are trying to start down this path?
So I would guess a couple things. In some ways, when you invited us, and I'd like to actually hear your reaction to this, Russ. When you invited us to do it, you had talked, and I think you actually talked about this at the Philadelphia book signing. There were people that didn't necessarily complete the full year. And, we certainly shouldn't beat ourselves up about that. That we have to sort of take this at our own pace. And there are going to be things at times in life that are going to seemingly get in the way. But obviously, the more open to it we are, and the more I think that we don't beat ourselves up about it, but just try to remain positive about the practice and kind of have that encouragement, have that somebody to come back to sort of say, well, I was doing it for a while and then I kind of forgot about it. And how do I get back into it? Like, it doesn't have to be, we don't have to sort of like go through 10 steps necessarily. And like, now we've arrived at this place where we are this gratitude guru, right? It's like, it's just that we want to, as I said before, be open, be mindful, sort of pick up the pieces, move forward, always try to find that positive is just around the next corner. So I would say, one, if it starts and then something gets in the way, don't beat yourself up about it. Just kind of start over, pick it up where you left off, find that someone you can go to help you get back into the practice again and keep that positive energy going. So that's kind of what I would say.
Awesome. Well, Sheryl Sandberg had something to say too. At her recent keynote speaking engagement for college graduation, she suggested that there's a direct link between being resilient and being appreciative and grateful. And she herself said that she writes down 3 moments of joy before going to sleep every night. As coaches, Russ, I know that we are big fans of lists. If I had $1 for every time I told someone to make a list of something, maybe that's where the coaching money flows, in the lists. But it's true. Lists work. And it's, to Mark's point, it keeps you consistent and keeps you in the flow of habit. Any cool ideas for making lists or how to make that a little more actionable for anyone?
Well, certainly, just to follow up on your point, I think, Sheryl Sandberg experienced the tragedy of all tragedies, to have your spouse pass away suddenly while you're away on a dream vacation. I mean, I wouldn't wish that.
Public figure. So there's no hiding from that on any level.
Yeah, right, exactly. You know, public figure, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Yet she was able to tap into her resilience and use gratitude to be resilient. And I think, you know, we've alluded to it already, but it's worth articulating clearly. Expressing gratitude can maybe help the most during tough times, because when we think all is lost and things are really terrible, if we can pause and say, you know what can I be grateful for in this situation? It can really help us shift. And it doesn't make the bad situation go away, but it helps to make the bad situation better. For instance, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2014. I'm happy to say now that she's totally great, recovered, etc. But at the time, it was super scary, as you can imagine. You know, my mom's the person in the world I'm the closest to, and I just couldn't imagine her having cancer. So at the time, of course, I was on this path of gratitude, so I couldn't not use gratitude. And I thought, okay, even though this is scary and difficult and upsetting, what can I be grateful for here in the situation? So I came up with a number of things. Number one, I'm an entrepreneur. So getting back to your list question, I made a list. I'm an entrepreneur and I control my own schedule and I can go with her to the doctor appointments. And this is something that Mark talked about in his chapter. Even though he isn't an entrepreneur, he was able to be with his dad as his dad was having health issues over the course of his year of gratitude. So I was able to be there with my mom. Then my sister and my mom's significant other, Tom, were also there. So we actually went out to lunch afterward on a Wednesday in the middle of the summer. Like, when else would we go out to lunch on a Wednesday in the middle of the summer? I don't even live in Philadelphia, where the rest of my family is. So that was a positive. I also met 2 cancer survivors, these super inspiring women, fellow coaches, maybe within 2 months of prior to my mom's diagnosis. So it was almost like God put these 2 little angels on my shoulder to say, hey, Russ, here are people that can help you as you navigate through your mom having cancer. So those are just a few of the things, but I think, you know, making a list is an excellent way to respond to any situation, whether it's a bad situation or a good situation.
Agree. And the point that you made, especially, I think that there's a lot of ways we look at downtimes in our lives, you know, things that we're not particularly happy about. And usually, if we fast forward and then we're able to look back at that, we can see kind of why something played out a certain way. So if we're able to see that door that closed and the window that opened, if we can focus on the window that opened just a little bit, sometimes we can see what our next moves are. And maybe we're about to make a turn or a twist or a pivot in our lives, because we are supposed to keep changing, but we're not really aware of what that is. And sometimes it takes something, you know, that is disturbing to allow us to move forward a little bit and to find what we're grateful for in that moment. Get out of there.
Absolutely.
We have a question. So is this supposed to be all-encompassing? I assume this being gratitude. Or can we just focus on gratitude part of the day? Is there a part-time gratitude or a full-time gratitude, guys? Mark, what do you think? Is there part-time gratitude?
My sort of first reaction to that is that's hard. That would be hard. It's not that let me say it this way. It's not that we're going to be floating on air the entire day and we're not going to have negative thoughts and we're not going to be sort of like caught up in moments where somebody, as I sort of alluded to before, where something happens during the day and you kind of get caught off guard and you have and then I'm saying, like, but something's going to tell me there's going to be something good coming along. So it's not that it's that, but I don't think you kind of like wake up in the morning and say, this is what I'm going to be grateful for today. And then you forget about it the rest of the day and just kind of go on and not pay any attention to it. So from that perspective, I don't think it's a part-time thing. I do think it has to be sort of be internalized in a way that sort of continues throughout your day. What about you, Nadia?
I was just thinking about, I guess the best way to address that question, and if I understand it correctly, I think it's a thing of, it's not like you're just sitting here all day thinking about what you're grateful for. It's like you said, like floating on this happy cloud and like, oh, I'm just so happy. I'm just so grateful for this. I'm just so grateful for this. It's just a thing of when you, as you start to recognize things and you start to show your gratitude. What I did was sometimes it came through at me throughout the day where something happened. I was like, oh, I'm grateful for that. And I started reflecting on it. But usually I did my gratitude journaling at the end of the day. So with that being said, by the end of the evening, I really sat down and thought about everything that happened in that day and how I wanted to reflect over it and write about it and share it with people. But, you know, as something happened, of course, I acknowledge my gratitude for this and I acknowledge my gratitude for that in the moment. But sometimes you don't recognize it, and then you try to take a step back and during your off time or your debriefing, and then you start seeing how things kind of have manifested throughout the day. So, I mean, it's to each his own.
I have a question, because you said you did it at the end of the day.
I did.
Right. And I think that's a really powerful time to do any kind of journaling, because then we close the book on whatever it is and we sleep on it. Mm-hmm. You find that that's something that gives you more of a push in the morning than when you get up, like you kind of had these thoughts, you went to sleep with them, this is what you're happy for, this is what you're grateful for, and now you wake up in the morning and it's like, okay, I'm clear on this.
I think it was a day of just kind of releasing it. And what I did with mine was I shared it on social media. So I would write it and then post it on my Instagram and my Facebook. And then the next day, I just kind of woke up, not even necessarily with what happened on mine from the previous day. I just woke up with a new day, ready to experience whatever happened. And people commented on it, then I reflected over it in the moment. But, I mean, it was just like, oh, okay, I let this out. I'm happy about this. I'm going to sleep now, waking up ready for a new day.
Awesome. One of the things I tell clients, and I do talk a lot about journaling at night about different things, the list concept certainly, and closing the book on it. But then there's a flip side of it. And with gratitude, I enjoy talking about the flip side of it. I think it's, for me, more of a morning thing. So waking up in the morning, get out of bed, 2 feet on the floor, first 3 thoughts, what am I grateful for? And not the usual go-tos. So it's not my kids and my house and my family and dog, that kind of thing. Because we know we're grateful for those things. What are the other things that we're grateful for that may not be as apparent? And I try to think of 3 things that are kind of out there that may not be going quite the way I want them to go, but, you know, how can I pull the grateful part and the successes into the ones that aren't going well, maybe tweak that a little bit. So kind of like a little bit different spin than how you were doing it in the evening, but yet another way for somebody to use mental list or a physical list to get themselves started on thinking about, you know, what they are grateful for, what their successes are.
Of course. Sounds great.
Anything else in terms of people getting started or tips for anybody?
Yeah, I think whatever works for individual people is what they should do. So I'm not saying everybody on this blab should strive to be grateful every single day for something different for 3.5 years like me. I was on a talk show last year, and the producer was like, well, I guess I should be grateful after booking you to appear on the show. So I was like, yes, that's great. How long do you want to be grateful for? And I think he said 5 days. I think I can do it for 5 days. And for him, that was the right amount. So, you know, there's no pressure from any of us in the book for people to set a super high, big goal that isn't achievable. I would say set something that's right for you. whether a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Raven in the Caribbean, who is in the chat room, she said she started keeping a gratitude journal on January 1st. So she is almost 5 months in. So kudos to Raven. Nice job. I love it. Woohoo. Maybe she'll be in a future book. Who knows? I also have a friend, Alicia. I saw her a week or two ago. She's been keeping a gratitude journal, I think, for a year or two. So there are a lot of people that have really been sticking to it. There are a lot of great apps out there for people who like to record things via apps. So whatever works for people watching this, I would encourage you to do it and to not feel pressure from anybody else and to be present in the moment and enjoy the moment of being grateful. Let's ask Raven via the chat. So Raven, what would you say you have gotten the most out of over the course of the last 4 months and 24 days of documenting your gratitude? So we'll see what she says and share her comments in a minute or so.
Awesome. In the meantime, Russ, what do you think is the biggest difference between acceptance and tolerance? Acceptance and tolerance. And how does gratitude possibly play into that?
So
I'll coach around it a lot, right?
Yeah, I'll go back to my analogy. Thankful or cooperate is to tolerate, as grateful or collaborate is to accept. So acceptance is a higher level of consciousness and more conscious way of living than tolerating or coping.
Right. And when we tolerate, usually there's some anger involved, right? And some energy that may not be to our benefit. Versus when we're accepting, we're more open and we're more okay with the universe around us. Our energy level is up and our gratitude is probably much more apparent to us and much more abundant.
Absolutely. And I think when we accept something, we can be grateful for that acceptance and grateful for hopefully the calmness that comes over us as a result of the acceptance.
Exactly. And here's a big one. Forgiveness. That's forgiveness and gratitude play hand in hand because it's hard. Sometimes people do hold grudges or they think they forgive somebody, but they're not necessarily forgiving them. And where does that maybe stop or hinder feeling grateful and abundant or not? You got very tall.
I had to turn the fan on. It's getting hot here on this tab.
Up in Jersey City.
The bright lights of the studio are on me here. My goodness. Sorry about that. So actually, before I answer your question, I want to read Raven's answer. So we asked Raven verbally a minute or two ago what the biggest thing that she got out of this year of gratitude that she's on, having started January 1st. And she said, great question. I've learned to find gratitude in aspects of life I took for granted 6 months ago, which, oh my God, that is so true. Thank you, Raven, for that incredible insight. I agree with you 1,000%. When we are training ourselves to be grateful, we notice all of the things around us that, as Raven says, perhaps we've been taking for granted. All right, now, Randy, what was your question again? Sorry.
Forgiveness. Do you forgive me, Russ?
I do forgive you. I hope you'll forgive me for forgetting your question.
I think it's a big one because I think a lot of people get caught up on not forgiving and not letting things go and holding and harboring pieces of relationships or grudges or something somebody said, and it's a blocker.
So I want to go to Nadia on this because Nadia talks about, she's laughing because she knows.
I didn't read your chapter, so there you go. I'm glad I hit on it for you.
I know so much about these 15 people. I know their lives like the back of my hand. So I know exactly what to go to when the host raises a question. So Nadia, you had some relationships that you decided to leave over the course of your year of gratitude. And I always think of you when I am leaving a relationship, because obviously you wrote about it in the book, which makes it there for the world to see. So talk for a minute or two, if you will, about the importance of leaving relationships.
Well, what I realized for me personally was that you have to recognize and honor what you deserve in life, and that your value is not based on how other people treat you. And so as a result of that, what I had to realize is my value, and I realized that I had to separate myself from particular situations. And to kind of answer your question about forgiveness, what I learned was I kind of use a coaching method of there's such things as obstacles, only opportunities. And I took every relationship as a lesson learned. And I still do it to this day, where all the people who I felt like at the time had wronged me, and or I felt a certain type of negative energy towards, I went back and I actually forgave them. This was after the gratitude mission, but I forgave them and I wrote them a letter expressing to them the opportunities, or the value I felt like they gave to my life based on time that they spent and the separation. And so that was definitely beneficial to me, because it helped me forgive people, and it helped me really see the positive in the situations and the lessons that I learned, and I grew from everything. And it's funny because actually one of the main people who inspired me to write the book, they actually bought a copy of the book from me, and they're reading it, and we did it on a nice level. Now that we have the book, and I've been able to talk, and been able to be in a positive space about it. So I think forgiveness is good.
I have a question real quick. I just want to, or maybe a better way to say that is, I wanted to turn the question around a little bit to see if from your experience, Russ, when the question was asked about forgiveness, it's interesting because I think I've been very fortunate to not hold grudges and to forgive easily and etc. But acceptance, although it was sort of meant to be a different definition of acceptance of something versus tolerance of something, I actually have a bigger problem accepting things sometimes and not wanting to change them. So I don't know that it's influenced my ability to be grateful, but it certainly is an internal struggle. I think more people struggle with forgiveness. I struggle more with acceptance of things. So I don't know if you've had experience talking to other authors about this.
Well, it's probably a more complicated issue than we can tackle here, although we certainly can tackle it here if you want to, or if you want to discuss it offline, one-on-one, just so I can maybe have some specific examples of what you aren't accepting. I think your life experience is unique to you, so just because others have a tougher time forgiving, it doesn't minimize you having a tough time accepting. But let me ask you this. Is there one example of something that you have a tough time accepting that you feel comfortable sharing?
I don't know that there's two parts to that answer. One is I don't know that I have one specific example. And actually, even though I raised the question, I think your answer was very wise in that it would probably be better to kind of dive into it in more of a one-on-one situation, because it actually probably would take a little bit of time to really kind of get at some of the core of it. So, but thank you.
Yeah. All right. So text me and we'll set up a time to talk about it one-on-one.
There you go.
Hey, Randy, so can we have Mark and Nadia, or Nadia and then Mark, read an excerpt from each of their chapters?
Sure. We have about 15 minutes left, so about 10 minutes roughly for that kind of thing, and then a wrap up. So yeah.
Perfect. So Nadia, I see you flipping. Do you want to go first?
I'll let Mark go first. I'm still
Okay, so I'm flipping too, so give me a second.
All right, and I'm going to grab a copy of my gratitude journal, and I can read something from that as time permits. So whichever of you is ready to go first, just start.
I think I have it. I think this is good based on what we just spoke about when it comes to acceptance and it comes to forgiveness. This was from June 12, 2014. And I usually started my chapters out with a quote. So the quote that I use is, life becomes easier when you learn to accept the apology that you never got. And so what I stated here was, one thing I'm learning in life is everything does not need to be fixed. Some things just are not for us. And when we can be okay with that, we can start moving forward in the right directions and making more investments and opening up more opportunities for those things that are for us. I'm grateful for the best things I never had, because I know now that the best things that are for me to have are still out there. You see very clearly when the rain is gone. So the question is, how long do you want to stand outside in the rain or in the storm? Some of us are still choosing to do so. Grateful I stepped out of the rain.
Me too. It makes our glasses all wet when we're out in the rain, and our hair wet. And I mean, I can't mess up that great look of yours, Nadia. No, that's great. And honestly, everyone, Nadia's quotes in her book, or in her chapter, are excellent. There's one that she has from Jada Pinkett Smith in her chapter. And literally, so listen to this. It's about relationships and loving someone for exactly who they are, not for the potential that they have. And yesterday I was having a session with a client. She was talking about her relationships and how in her last relationship, she fell in love with the potential of her soon-to-be ex-husband. And I was like, oh my God, stop. You have to wait. I have to read this quote to you from my book. And I go to flip open the other book, not my gratitude journal, but our gratitude mission. And I go like this, right? Just flip it open. I flipped it open to the page of the quote. The page of the quote that I was looking for, I flipped it right open to it. It was crazy. I was like, yes, Nadia Givens, chapter 13, page 303. I opened right to it. So,
and I bet, guys, that 90% of divorces out there are based on that little piece of information that you just shared. They really are, because very often in all relationships tend to write a story about what we think somebody should be or how they should be or how we think they should be some other time. And when they're not that, well, why aren't they that? So there's this friction between the character we've assumed they are and who they really are.
Who we've made up in our mind that they will be.
Right. Oh, they have all this potential. They're going to be this. Well,
but if they don't, then you still
this.
And as a follow-up to that, I think those of us who are grateful tend to be very positive. And because we're positive, we see the good in people. And when we see the good in people, we see what they can be, what their potential is. So it's just a good reminder of us. Oh, I was like, whose phone is that ringing? Oh, it's mine. Sorry about that. When we are in that situation, to just stop and say, okay, I know I usually see the good in people, but what are the red flags here? What are the things that right now are not so great? And do I love this person exactly as they are right now, if they never change that not so great thing? All right, Mark, your turn. What do you want to read for us?
Well, I was flipping around, and I'll tell you why I just settled on this. I think I want to choose a date rather than more of a extended piece, but I'll kind of give, I've got to give a couple postscripts, I think, to it. So this is from May 7th, and the entry is simply, change can indeed be difficult, but it was high time I cleaned my office and prepared for a possible move. I was grateful for the help of my wonderful partner, Curtis, who kept me on task as we sorted through and largely discarded 3 years of paperwork. The office feels clean again, and I am ready for whatever comes next. And I think I chose that for a couple of reasons. One is the first of all, the move itself, or the move from the job, did not actually happen until many months later, but this was actually a move from the office, and I hadn't cleaned the office for 3 years. And there's this part of me, there's this swelling up in me right now that wants to like purge a lot of stuff. It may or may not be time to do that, but there's a part of me that actually wants to do that. But also the forgiveness piece that we talked about a few minutes ago, there was some, as always with these kinds of transitions, there was some little bits of hurtfulness that came with it. But again, one of the people involved I saw recently in April, and we just reconnected in a very positive way. And again, I think that's what I was saying before about there's no hard feelings with me. There's forgiveness, sort of, there's a well of forgiveness, I guess. But there's this sense of I'm a person who does not really mind change. And I am sort of yearning to have that kind of cleaning out 3 years of stuff again. I don't know exactly from what, but I just was gravitating towards that journal entry tonight.
I love it. And by the way, you mentioned your partner, Curtis. Shout out to Curtis, because he has been so supportive of the book. He is a tireless promoter of our book. He has been so helpful at all of the book signings that Mark has had. So just want to express my gratitude to Curtis for everything he's done to get our message of gratitude out there.
Hello.
Hi, Curtis. All right, so Randy, I have my book to read an entry from. So why don't you give me a date, and I'll turn to that date in the book.
A date? Okay, sure. May 26th.
All right. It's so exciting to see what people think or what people pick, because as you can imagine, I don't remember the specific days. Okay, let's see what this is all about. 5/26. I love the randomness of life. Today I was texting with my original BFF, Nancy Alicacos Barbunas. I'm always grateful when she has time to chat with me. She's a busy mom of 2 young boys. When I rejoined my now former employer, PwC, in December 2005, she was in the cube to the left of me. Had we not been seated next to each other, maybe we wouldn't have developed the incredible bond that we still have to this day. She's one of the funniest people I know. She's also so smart, so seasoned, or 4S, as I say to her. Nancy also has the most amazing memory. Her sister, Maria Alicacos, and I always joke that it's like a steel trap. Nancy remembers way more about me than I even do. I'm grateful for that and her friendship and her always making me laugh out loud. Thank you, Cubicle Gods, for putting us next to each other.
Oh.
So I think when we express gratitude for specific people, it really helps to take gratitude to the next level. In this little skinny book, my first book, there are 125 different people that I mentioned specifically. And when I was in the final stages of producing it, I reached out to all of them and said, hey, I mentioned you in the book. Just want to make sure that's okay with you. Let me know if you want to see what I say, to review it. And it's a reminder. Now, obviously, everybody watching this may not write a book, but to reach out to people and thank them for what you are grateful for about them, for them, etc. One of my clients, she actually was inspired. Every single week, she reaches out to one person to express her gratitude to that person for something that they did, for who they are, etc. So just a great way to live, in addition to the experiences, being grateful for specific people.
I like that, Russ. And I'm very grateful to you and to Mark and to Nadia for being on this lab and sharing this hour with me. And I kind of want to do a little bit of a wrap up, just where to find us, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start with myself. You can always find me on my website at www.randylevincoaching.com. And anyone who has any questions or wants to reach out in any way, it's Randy at Randy Levin Coaching. And I'm grateful for the pause. I talk about pausing all the time, and now that summer's coming, I'm pausing in my bouncing off the wall itinerary just a little bit, a little less programming going on, but am looking for more corporate, intimate groups of women's groups or business groups to be presenting for and doing workshops for. So shout out to the universe, bringing that gratitude right out and right back for new opportunities and things going forward. Next conversation with the coach is 6:13, Clear It Out, the Art of Releasing Stress, with the wonderful Lois Kramer Perez, who's an intuitive healer. It will be incredibly energetic, I promise that. And 6:27, Conversations with the Coach, also from 8 to 9 p.m. Susan Horn-Greif, she's a creative transformational expert, and we'll be talking about crossing bridges, the power of visualization. We found in talking to each other that one of the most powerful visuals that we had in reinventing ourselves was bridge. And we're going to explain a little bit more about that and what visioning can bring into your life. I have a book out next month. It's called Get Results. I am a chapter anthology author, like you guys, essentially. And it's called Get Results. And my chapter is called Signs from the Road of Life. And there'll be more about that coming up shortly. And I want to offer to anyone out there in the universe watching this on a replay or whenever that I have a free ebook on my website, again at www.randylevincoaching.com, 9 actionable tips to reinventing yourself, essentially. So that's available for you. And anyone can reach out and contact me for a club session anytime. Russ Terry, where do we find you?
All right, you can go to my website, RussTerryLifeCoach.com. That's RussTerryLifeCoach.com. I'll put it in the chat room. And you can buy the newest book, Our Gratitude Mission, a signed copy on my website. Also, that book plus my first book, My Gratitude Journal, are both available on Amazon. And I'm super grateful to you, Randy. You are just so freaking hip, so cool. I love that you introduced me to Blab. Here am I.
Who would have thought?
I know. Former TV anchor, you would think that I would be all about this outlet to talk about myself on camera. So thank you very much for having me on, having Mark on, having Nadia on, setting this up, dealing with the technology issues that I had leading up to this that we successfully resolved. So thank you for that. And thanks to everyone watching either live or on the replay, Raven and others. Nadia, on to you.
Well, you can reach me at my website, which is www.destined4greatness4greatnesslifecoaching.com. You can also purchase a signed copy with a nice inspirational word on my website as well. Also, you can reach me on any social media platform at D4G Life Coaching. That will be my tag on all social media platforms. I'm on Periscope, Snapchat, all of those great things, so that people can stay connected. I'm most grateful for being able to come in here at the last minute because it was not planned. And be able to inspire, take advantage of this great opportunity to meet you, Brandy, as well as just be able to fellowship with my fellow authors one more time, talking about what we love so much, which is gratitude. And I'll be having another book signing soon in Charlotte, North Carolina, June 18th. The location is to be announced, so just stay posted and I'll let everyone know.
Awesome. Thank you. Mark?
Thank you again for having me tonight. As the Twitter handle, as it were, is there. It's at Mark Ferrante, so M-A-R-K, capital F-U-R-R-A-N-T-E 22, or my email address, which is mferrante, so first initial last name 322. There's a 3 in front of the 22 that time, at gmail.com. And look forward to hearing from you. Who knows, Russ, there may be another city in our future where we have a book signing. I'm going to work on something.
All right, all up and down the Eastern Seaboard, Mark. What a great book tour we have, and great to be here with you, Mark, and with you, Nadia, and with you, Randy, tonight.
Thank you so much, everyone. Good night.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.